Thanks for joining us for this episode. And before we get started, please take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you may listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about any guest featured in this episode or access any content or resources discussed, be sure to check out the show notes in the episode description. We hope today's episode increases truth and inspires hope in the lives of your church, your business, your family, and beyond. Welcome to the Must Increase podcast.
Welcome to the Must Increase podcast, and I am your host, Luke Clayton, and I'm joined by one of our favorites, one of my favorites, Jeremy Lenentine. Jeremy, good to have you back with us for this episode.
Good to be back. It's been a while, and glad I'm here.
Yeah, good to be here. So today we're going to kind of continue the conversation that we had in a previous episode. And we kind of talked on a high level about essentially the power of email and utilizing email marketing and things and even in the church world. And so what we want to look at now, though, is something in this episode, rather, is something a little bit more maybe tactical and practical, and that we are going to try and attempt to set up, if nothing else, set up some templates for you. Maybe, obviously, we won't be able to do everything, but kind of get you started. And we're going to be using the platform MailChimp for that. So, Jeremy, before we dive into there, kind of just give us an idea of what you're hoping to kind of accomplish through through our time here on this episode, and obviously in the long run as well.
Yeah, I know you talked before about what MailChimp can do for automation of emails for, let's say, guests that come to your church or people that show interest or someone who gets saved in one of your services or gets baptized or whatever. And so kind of want to learn how to set up those automations so that they receive several ongoing emails on schedule, take the human error out of it, and, connect with people better, because we haven't been doing as good a job as I would like for us to do in that area. So,
okay, well, and I think this is something that all churches can benefit from, because, like you said, the beauty of email in particular is that it allows for a lot of automation. In fact, you could probably automate email more than you can any other marketing and communication method. I mean, there are certainly ways to automate other forms of communication, but email is the one that is the most practical, the most affordable. And so, we're going to look into that today. So I'm going to go ahead, and I will go and say this too, for all of those, our listening audience out there. This is one of those episodes where I'm going to do my best to describe what's going on, but you're very likely going to get lost if you're not actually watching this one. So head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/mustincrease. While you're there, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That always helps. Or you can see the link in the show notes in the description so that you can actually find this video version of this episode. So that being said, I'm going to share the screen here, and let's get rolling. Jeremy, I just want to confirm you can see it, because if you can see it, then that's a good indication that those watching can see it. Let's get rolling here with what we've got going on. So I want to start here by just introducing MailChimp, what that is. So MailChimp started as essentially a email-only campaign or email campaign, email marketing management software, and that's still what it does, I would say, at its core. Over the years, though, it's evolved into it's trying to be more of an all-in-one marketing platform. And so what that looks like is they offer a little bit more now than just email. They do offer some text marketing even, and we're not necessarily going to look into that today. We might dabble and just maybe look at it on a high level. We're not really going to get into that. It also does some stuff with social media as well, which is certainly not something we're going to attempt to touch today. But MailChimp is your typical online software service that offers you some type of free trial. And then after the free trial, it's going to charge you, and you're going to be charged based on the number of emails that you have in your database. So the price is going to fluctuate based on that. So that's just kind of a little bit. If you're going to get into MailChimp, this is how it works, what you can expect. There are other options out there. We're using MailChimp because it is popular. It does have a fairly simple user interface, but there's others. Constant Contact is a popular one. MailerLite is one that I've actually used for a while. And there's several others, but again, we're gonna look at MailChimp today because I think that's the most popular one, and it seems pretty simple. And pricing wise, it's not too bad in terms of cost. So yeah, let's get rolling here now, Jeremy. Right at the start here, before I dive into what we are going to work on specifically, what have you in your initial thoughts? I know you've not been using MailChimp long, but what are your initial thoughts about the platform and how it works?
It seems to be pretty easy. I've taken some time to build out an audience on there, not with a bunch of emails, but probably like 175. So it seems pretty user friendly, but it also does seem a little bit stiff on how you run campaigns and things like that. And so that's why I was hoping to get to this automation point, because I think it actually is probably going to be the best thing about it. And also excited about some of the new features that they have in paid as well, like text marketing and different things like that. We probably won't have time to get into today, but
yeah. So that is something that it does need to be noted, is that I think it's more of a general reminder, is that not every software platform is going to be perfect. There's going to be things about it that like you said, might seem a little bit more less user-friendly, more rigid, things like that. But let's start here by just walking through what we're looking at in terms of what MailChimp offers. And just as we're looking at these categories here, you see on the sidebar, there's campaigns, automations, audience, analytics, and a few more items as well. Let's start with audience so that you know what that is. I'm not going to click on that because I don't want to reveal any of your users' email addresses, but that's actually where you're going to find the email addresses of those that you've connected with. So the nice thing about the audience, and when you have a small email list of probably less than 500, 1,000, there's not a lot of value to this. But as your audience grows and your contact list grows, you can actually start to segment it out based on certain behaviors. And these segments are dynamic. So what's nice is, for example, you can go in and say, let's create a segment of users that are opening 50% or more of the emails we're sending. So that way you get an idea of like who's actually being more engaged. And because that is the thing about MailChimp or any of these softwares, is you are also somewhat limited on how many emails you can send. That's kind of how they calculate their billing. So for example, if you said, okay, instead of sending to 1,000 people who are always who half of them don't even read it, well, let's send to the 500 of those who are more likely to read it. Well, it just kind of helps you be a little bit more cost effective, I guess, in how you're targeting people. And you can target them based off of different things, like, if you can gather interests and different, kind of behaviors and things like that. So that's the nice thing about segmenting your audience out there. And then also you're able to, from this section, build sign-up forms so that people can actually opt into receiving your emails. There's also many, third-party, form tools that would integrate with MailChimp to allow you to collect email addresses. But obviously that's going to be important. If you don't have something out there, some type of online form collecting your email addresses, well, then this does you no good. So they do have that built right in, that ability to create a sign-up form right from this dashboard. So that's what the audience section is all about. And then skipping up here to, Jeremy, before I move on from there, I want to make sure you don't have any questions about any of that.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I want to dive into the sign up. Have you ever used the sign up forms before with any churches you've worked with, or your church?
Yeah, I mean, I've used these before in the past. I believe we can safely click on this without it revealing it. Yeah. So yeah, there's these different options here. You can build like a nicer looking form. I think they have some, just templates. They have the ability to make it as an embedded form. So it's embedded right there in your website, or maybe even as a pop-up form. And so, yeah, these tend to work pretty well from what I've noticed. And they're pretty simple. I will say this: when you go to build a form, and I've made this recommendation many times, you're going to be looking at asking for a name and an email, and that's all I would recommend asking for on these forms, because that is the point, is to capture an email address. Now, yes, I know SMS text messaging marketing has been incorporated now, so asking for a phone number at some point might not be a bad idea. But the basics is name and email. Don't be asking for too much information, or you will get people that just opt not to fill out the form because they don't want to take the extra 30 seconds to fill in all that info. So, but that said, all of the from what I've seen is, yes, these are very effective form builders. It's the easiest way to get an actual form to capture that contact information. Again, there's ways to integrate third-party form builders and things like that. As far as I know, something like a Google Forms is not going to integrate with MailChimp. That may have changed, but I believe that's the case right now. But so that's the nice thing, is you can have these forms that already, automatically, when someone signs up or when somebody fills out this form, it automatically adds those to your contact list.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So let's move up here to campaigns. We're not going to spend too much time on campaigns today either, because we're going to focus more in on automations. But campaigns is very simple because, and it will be a way that you're going to find yourself using this, using MailChimp or any type of software, because what we're looking at with campaigns is the ability to send out kind of, I guess the term some might be familiar with is an email blast. So these are campaigns that are not necessarily automated. Now, they can be scheduled. So you can create a campaign and you can, advertise for an upcoming, special Sunday or event that your church has going on. And then you can schedule it to go out. And I do like that they've got this campaigns manager feature now where you can kind of look at things on a calendar view, and things like that. And so this is a really nice feature that they've got here along with that. And also under campaigns, you do now, we're not going to go into this a lot today, but they do have this option to do SMS marketing. Now they do, because it's a fairly new thing, they do require you to apply for that. So I'm not sure what their terms are on being accepted, but before you could actually utilize it, you've got to apply for it. Because the thing to understand about SMS marketing, email marketing is pretty straightforward. In that there's not a lot of hands in the pot, if you will, as far as those trying to take a share of the revenue. But when it comes to SMS, that gets really sticky, because now you're dealing with cell phone carriers, and cell phone carriers are making money per text, and so it gets very expensive. It can get expensive. And so all that to say, that's why they've got it kind of on this application basis. And I'm not really sure what the limitations are on text, but I do know that it's going to be much less than the number of emails you can send. But that's okay. You don't need to be, just a sidebar, and I think we've discussed this. I can't remember if it was an episode you and I did together, Jeremy, or another one, but it's been discussed here on the podcast before. If you're going to use SMS marketing, you don't need to do a lot of it. You need to keep it very infrequent. I would say once or twice a month, honestly, because sending a text is much more intrusive than sending an email. It feels a lot more personal, which can be a valuable thing. But if you overuse that, then people are going to very likely opt out of your text messages, or worse, block your number or something like that. All that to say, that they've got this offered as a service, but you do have to apply for it and use it very cautiously. So that's the campaigns. Any questions about the campaign section before we kind of move, Jeremy, into the main meat of what we're going to be talking about today?
No, that makes sense. And the campaign manager, that will show you, it's essentially like scheduling stuff on like Facebook or whatever, right? It would just show you this is going to go out on this day and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. And also with the campaigns too, I will mention, again, MailChimp has kind of changed the way that this works and looks over the years. But this is actually where you can do stuff with, again, SMS, but also with even some social posts and ads and things like that. I haven't done a lot with that. They even got this feature now where you can like actually schedule a physical postcard to go out. Again, I've not done much with it. I think it's very interesting and intriguing, and something honestly I'd love to explore and learn more about. Because these are fairly new features compared to the last time I really was using MailChimp. But so there are some interesting things that campaign manager kind of gives you a master view of, okay, here's when all this stuff is scheduled to go out. So yeah, that's campaigns. All right, let's jump into automations, because that is going to be where we are spending most of our time today. And MailChimp now calls these journeys, kind of customer journeys. And, they've formerly been called maybe email funnels, and that's going to be the more business term. But I think they kind of call it a journey because they're looking to kind of create, it could potentially involve more than just email. Like I said, you could utilize these journeys to send text messages, again, appropriately, not too frequently, to maybe send some type of postcard or something of that nature. But primarily it's going to be email. And so that's what we're going to do, is we are going to just kind of start building one of these journeys, as they call them. Again, you can call it a funnel, you can call it a sequence, whatever. It's essentially what it is it is a setting up one time kind of a format or a template that everybody who connects with you gives you their email address. It's going to automatically send them emails over the course of the next few weeks or months. And again, potentially more than emails, maybe text and stuff as well. But the core of it's going to be emails that are going to automatically send the same emails to the same people, just on a schedule. And you set it once and you forget it. And it's a very powerful feature. So let's start by actually going to what they call their pre-built journeys. These are more or less templates. Now we could dive into what every single one of these is, but I'm just more doing this because it helps us get things up and going quickly. I'm just going to use the welcome new contacts journey. Kind of shows us a preview for it, and I'm going to click use. Okay, so right now it says, hey, you got to pick an audience. Now, right now, Jeremy, you're just starting to build your email list, so it's not particularly massive. So for this particular journey, we're just going to say, hey, everybody on this list in your Gospel Light Baptist Church email list is going to receive these emails. But again, there may come a point where you want to create different audiences for different purposes and things like that, and you set up different journeys for those different audiences. But for sake of just getting started, we're going to do this. Obviously, everybody who comes onto your email list is going to get put into this journey. So let's click continue. And it is loading. And here we go. So here is the start point. And that is when someone signs up for your email list. And again, we can go into how you would set up a sign up form and things like that specifically, maybe some other time. But that is basically the sign-in point is, hey, someone signs up and they get added to the Gospel Light Baptist Church audience, okay, which again is going to be pretty much anybody right now who connects with you by and shares their email in this way. You can add alternate starting points. Some of those might look like, whenever there's, for example, and this is kind of cool. You can set up like a birthday thing. Like if they give you, if they do share their birthday at some point, you can set up things to, okay, hey, whenever their birthday, it's going to trigger a different journey and send them, just, hey, here's a little email, happy birthday. Obviously in the business world, send them a discount or something like that. And so there's all these different ways. I'm not going to go into all that where they can have these starting points. You can also filter out, who's going to be here based on, those segments we were talking about. If once you got to the point where you're segmenting things out, but obviously that doesn't apply at this time. There's also this option here to say to allow the contact to repeat the journey. So that means if for some reason they ever got off your email list and came back on it, they would repeat and flow through the same sequence. You can have the option to toggle that on and toggle that off. So now let's say somebody signs up. Well, obviously the first default thing is going to be, let's send them a welcome email. Now we're not going to go through writing the email and exactly how to do that. Really, we're going to stay for the most part in this just general kind of wireframe layout that they have. But once you were to go in here, you can go in and, you can edit, who it's coming from. So by default, Jeremy, your name's filled in, but you could put it like your lead pastor's name, or you could just make it more we do always recommend using an actual name rather than the organization or church name, subject, and then the schedule. You would schedule when it goes out. In this case, you can pick what days this would send. So maybe you don't want to bother people on the weekend for whatever reason. So you can uncheck Saturday and Sunday. So that means that this email is still going to send to this person, but it's going to wait until it's, a weekday in theory. And then what time of day? You can do the same thing. You can say, well, you know what? I don't want to bother people, at 4 a.m. or whatever. So you can set up these parameters to say, hey, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., for example. And then once you do that, then you can select their builder down here so you can design the actual email and add the content to it. Again, we're not going to go into all of that right now. But that is basically the setup process. I'm going to pause here, Jeremy, because it looks like you got a question.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe this is a really dumb question, but let me try to figure out how to word this. Okay. So you set this up and it can go out whenever. So, but the audience is set for everyone. So moving forward, does it know to only send it when you add a new person into the audience? Is that what's happening here?
Yes. So there's a setting here. When I go up here to the sign up area, I believe that's where I saw it. You can include these imported contacts if you want. So that means if you were to check this and actually turn on the automation, that means everybody already in your list is going to go ahead and get sent through this email journey. Okay. But otherwise, it's only going to do this to new emails that get added. So you have the option of, which I don't know what's going to be best for you. You might want to send everybody through it. But I would imagine maybe not, because you're probably looking for people, because you're saying, hey, thanks for joining us for church, or whatever this first email is going to say. Well, okay, yeah, I've been coming for a few weeks or a few months or a few years now. So yeah, does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah. So what was always throwing me off about MailChimp was if you set up all this automation, but then in your audience, okay, so let's say that you set up one for salvations, people that got saved at your church, right? Mm-hmm. So you set up a journey campaign or whatever for people for salvations. Obviously, they would go through that one time. So when you add them into when you add their email into that salvation audience, right? Mm-hmm. Then that would kick them into this stream here that they would go through. Is that how it works? And then you need to go back in and take them back out of the audience later, or?
Well, no. So once you have different audiences, by the time you reach the end of the journey, one of the journey points here, let me see if is to, let me see where it's at, is to, I believe you can, now right now, you don't have more than one audience, but you can do things like update the contact, which is going to allow you to update audience field. You can change it. Well, in that case, you're actually changing their name information. And I believe it's just because you only have the one audience right now. But you can go in and you can change. And that's another thing, is you can create groups. So that actually might be what you're looking to do. That's another thing we didn't cover when we were looking at the audience section, is there's segments and groups. So what you probably are talking about doing is creating an actual group for, that's all. It's these different layers. There's audiences, and audience can be separated into groups. So you're probably not going to create more than one audience. You would actually create more than one group. So it's a little bit of a correction to what I was talking about earlier. I wasn't thinking about all the different layers. So you'd probably create a group that was called like salvations or new converts or whatever. And then once they completed the journey, well, then you could go to and down to this group option, and you would change them from the one group and move them, add or remove them. Add them to another group, remove them from that group, whatever you want to do. You can do both. You can have them, because people can exist in multiple groups if you want them to. So that would be kind of towards the end of this particular journey funnel. Is you'd get to the end, and then you say, okay, let's take them and remove them from this new convert group and add them to whatever the next kind of group level that would be. Or like I said, they can exist in both. It's up to you. So yeah, it gets very. It is something, we're given this high level overview. It is something that you kind of have to map out and figure out what you want to do. And then you go in and implement it on the back end. once you kind of have that figured out.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So the one audience is every email I can get inside the church, and then different
Yeah.
groups would apply to different. Okay, yeah. All right, that makes a lot more sense.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's essentially what we're looking at in terms of. Now, another nice thing is there's rules. So you can say if something happens, like for example, let's see, regular. Oh well, yeah, and these rules are based off of segments, and again, we don't have segments, but you can say, hey, if there's a certain segment that this person is a part of. Or a certain behavior that they do. Like, for example, if they open the email would be an example. If they open the email, well, we're going to send them down one path where maybe we send them the next email. If they don't open the email, well, we're going to send them maybe not the exact same email, but we're going to send another version of it again, to get them to take that action. Yes. Okay. It's and again, a lot of, I highly recommend getting a whiteboard or a piece of paper and mapping out what you want to happen and then going and kind of building it here. So there's those That's options. So there's that. Wait a minute, where are we going here? Oh, okay. Yeah. So then there's a delay option. So you can do a time delay. You can say, hey, wait a few days until you move to the next step, or wait for them to actually open the email, wait for them to click on that on the link in that email before you do something next. Obviously, again, they've got things in here about sending where you can set them up if you were to apply and get approved and want to look into the SMS. You could actually, if you have their phone number, you can send an SMS. By the way, I'm going to throw this out there. A lot of people ask, I'm taking a little bit of a step back here, but I want to, it's just a concept that's good for folks to wrap their mind around. We say, well, how are we going to send them text if we only ask them for name and email? Fair question. So here's where in your customer, or in this journey that you're building, this funnel, consider the stair-stepper approach to continuing to get little bits of more information in each email. So for example, you could say something in maybe not your first email, but maybe your second or third email that says something to the effect of, hey, we'd love to text you a special, and a lot of times it's a good way to incentivize, like a special gift or a special message from our pastor or something. Share your number. Well, once they do that, okay, so now you've got a phone number too. Something, Jeremy, I remember us talking about in a previous episode is, hey, we want to give your family, we want to send you guys a pizza for a family, just a family fun night. We want to send you a pizza. Give us your address so we can send that to your house. Okay, cool. Now you have a reason to ask them for their address instead of asking for it all at once. When you ask for it all at once, you feel like you're filling out a doctor's form. Why am I giving you all this information? When you stair step it out and give them a practical reason of why you should be giving it, well, now you can collect more information, more contact information, which is valuable. But in a like I said, that stair stepped approach, and each time you're giving them a reason. So, Jeremy, I'm gonna let you give any thoughts or questions here before we kind of move into what might be next.
Okay, so if you can back up to on the ad starting point 2, is this just something that happens if, like, the birthday is a perfect example, as they're going through this stream, if it hits their birthday and it knows it's their birthday, it'll send it to them, or does them hitting a birthday suck them into this stream?
Yeah, so birthday, I would recommend, if you're going to set up a birthday one, for example, that you set this up as a separate journey, because it's only going to happen when somebody actually has a birthday. I think
There's
practical. Yeah. I wouldn't think that would be a good second starting point. I think the only other example that might make a good starting point is if you do a added tag here. That's another option that's available in audience. You've got groups, you got segments, and then you also have tags. So you can tag somebody manually as, hey, yeah, this person, maybe they've been coming for a while, but they just got saved and they're interested in taking that journey now. So boom, tag them as salvation, and now they're going to get sent through this funnel, through this journey. So that would be another practical way of saying, okay, I'm going to add a tag. What tag is it going to be? I'll just create it as salvation. And then we'll save that as a starting point, and boom. So now that can be another way for them to begin this journey funnel.
Okay. Is there a way for you to see like when you look at this later on, when this is all set up, is there a way for you to see how many people are in this journey and where they're at and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd
There's a
have
place
10,
in the
10 people on step number 3, and then 6 people at the beginning and that kind of thing.
Yes, and obviously, like, it's hard to see that before it's turned on, but there is a place with your analytics where, you can see where they're at every step of the way there. And so, that's kind of an introduction here to the journeys, or to MailChimp and the journeys feature. And there's definitely more we can dive into. So here's what we're going to do, Jeremy. We're going to kind of call that a good ending spot for this particular episode. But in the next one, we're going to kind of pick up where we left off and maybe talk through a few more of the specifics. So it's good to have you with us, as always, here with us on the podcast. And we'll see you in the next one.
We are so glad you joined us for this episode. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and wherever you may listen to podcasts. Also, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review and share this podcast with your friends. You can connect with us online at mustincrease.com. And if you'd like a topic or question to be featured on a future episode, send us a text to 615-900-4461. Thanks again for joining us for this episode, and we look forward to seeing you next time as we continue to increase truth and inspire hope in the lives of others right here on the Must Increase podcast.